The stars had never looked so cold to Admiral Park Ji-soo. She stood at the window of the orbital station's sentinel, her hands clasped behind her back, watching the alien ship approach. It was a Valari cruiser, painted in the white and gold colors of diplomacy. 18 months ago, ships just like this one had burned New Seoul to ashes. 4 million people had died in a single day. Her daughter had been one of them. The door behind her opened. Captain Lee Tae-ho stepped inside and saluted. "Admiral, the Valari delegation has docked. High Arbiter Morin is requesting permission to come aboard." "Let them come," Park Ji-soo said without turning around. She could see her reflection in the window glass. Her hair had turned gray in the past year. She was only 42 years old, but she looked much older now. War did that to people. Grief did that even faster. The Galactic Council had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. 12 alien species had built an empire that stretched across 1,000,000 star systems. When humanity first reached the stars, the Council had welcomed them with open arms. They called humans young and promising. They gave humanity a small corner of space and told them to be grateful. Then came the disagreement over mining rights in the outer systems. Then came the sanctions. Then came the blockade. And when human colonists refused to leave New Seoul, the Council decided to make an example. Park Ji-soo still remembered watching the video feeds. She had been on Earth when it happened, attending her mother's funeral. Her husband had called her from New Seoul, his face full of terror. "The sky is on fire," he had said. "Ji-soo, the sky is burning." Then the connection had cut off, and she never heard his voice again. The door opened again. High Arbiter Morin entered the room, followed by 4 Valari guards. The Valari were tall beings with silver skin and large black eyes. They moved with a grace that humans found unsettling. Morin was the oldest among them, his skin marked with the purple lines that showed his high rank. Ambassador Yoon Hana stood to the side, her face carefully blank. She had been Earth's voice in the Council before the war. Now, she served as a military liaison, translating not just words but intentions. "Admiral Park," Morin said, his voice smooth and calm. "I bring greetings from the Galactic Council. We come in peace." Park Ji-soo finally turned to face him. "You come in peace," she repeated. "How nice." Morin seemed not to notice her tone. "The Council has authorized me to present terms for ending this unfortunate conflict. We believe these terms are more than fair." He pressed a button on his wrist, and a holographic document appeared in the air between them. "The Council offers full reparations for the New Seoul incident. We offer humanity expanded colonial rights in 3 additional star systems. We offer a formal apology from all 12 member species." He paused, clearly expecting gratitude. "In exchange, humanity will reduce its military forces to pre-war levels and submit to Council oversight of all future expansion." The room was silent. Captain Lee Tae-ho's hands had curled into fists at his sides. Ambassador Yoon Hana's eyes moved to Park Ji-soo, waiting. Park Ji-soo walked slowly toward Morin. She was a small woman, barely reaching his chest. But something in her eyes made him take a step back. "Let me understand," she said quietly. "You killed 4 million of my people. You burned children alive in their beds. You turned a city into a graveyard." Her voice did not rise. It stayed flat and cold. "And now you offer us money and an apology. You want us to say thank you and go home." Morin spread his hands. "Admiral, surely you understand the reality of your situation. Humanity has fought well, yes. You have surprised us. But the Council represents 12 species. Our combined fleets outnumber yours 50 to 1. This war can only end one way." "Can it?" Park Ji-soo said. "We are offering you peace with honor. Take it." Park Ji-soo looked at the holographic document floating in the air. She looked at the carefully written terms, the promises of money and territory. She thought about her daughter, who had loved to draw pictures of spaceships. She thought about her husband, who had made her laugh every single day of their marriage. "No," she said. Morin blinked. "I'm sorry?" "No. We reject your terms. The Valari guards shifted nervously. Morin's calm expression flickered. Admiral, I don't think you understand what you're saying. This is a generous offer. The Council does not make such offers twice. Good, Park Jisoo said. Because I don't want to hear it twice. You cannot win this war. Maybe not. Park Jisoo walked back to the window and looked out at the stars. But we didn't start this war. High Arbiter, your council made that choice when they decided that human lives were worth less than mining rights. When they decided that burning children was an acceptable way to solve a trade dispute, she turned back to face him. So here is my counteroffer. You leave this station. You go back to your council. And you tell them that humanity will decide when this war ends. Not them, us. Morin stared at her for a long moment. You are making a terrible mistake. Perhaps. But it is my mistake to make. The High Arbiter gathered his guards and walked to the door. Before he left, he turned back one more time. The Council will not forget this insult, Admiral. Good, Park Jisoo said. I'm counting on it. When the Valari ship had departed, Captain Lee Taeho approached her. Admiral, do you really think we can win? Park Jisoo watched the enemy ship grow smaller in the distance. I don't know, Taeho. But I know that accepting their peace would not bring back the dead. It would only tell the galaxy that human lives can be bought and sold. She turned to face him, and for just a moment, he saw the grief beneath her calm surface. My daughter was 7 years old. She wanted to be a pilot when she grew up. No amount of money will ever make that right. She walked to the command console and opened a channel to the fleet. All ships. This is Admiral Park. The Council's peace offer has been rejected. We advance toward Valari space at dawn. Prepare for war. Across the galaxy, the news spread like fire. The humans had refused. Against all logic. Against all reason. Against all hope of survival. The humans had said no, and in the halls of the Galactic Council, for the first time in 10,000 years, the rulers of the galaxy felt something they had almost forgotten. They felt afraid. 6 months had passed since humanity rejected the Council's first peace offer. In that time, everything had changed. Commander Baek Minho stood on the bridge of his small attack ship, watching the Valari supply convoy burn. His squadron had hit them from behind an asteroid field, appearing out of nowhere and disappearing just as fast. The enemy never saw them coming. All targets destroyed, his pilot reported. No survivors. Minho nodded. He felt nothing. He had stopped feeling things months ago. Before the war, he had been a teacher. He had taught history to young students on Earth. Now he taught the galaxy a different kind of lesson. Set course for the next target, he said. We have 3 more convoys to hit before sunrise. Across the front lines, the war was going better than anyone had expected. Human forces had captured 3 Valari outposts. They had destroyed an entire Council supply fleet near the Crimson Nebula. They fought with a fury that the alien species had never seen before. Lieutenant Kang Jiho had become famous during the Battle of Crimson Nebula. He was just 23 years old. But he flew his fighter like a man possessed. In a single engagement, he had destroyed 14 enemy ships. When asked how he did it, he simply said, I think about New Seoul. Then, I stop being afraid. On the science station orbiting Mars, Dr. Shin Yuna worked day and night on weapons that had never been imagined before. She was a small woman with tired eyes and messy hair. She had not slept properly in months. Her team called their main project Hammer. They did not talk about what it would do when it was finished. The Galactic Council met in emergency session on the Citadel, their ancient seat of power. The Great Chamber had seen countless debates over 10,000 years. But it had never seen anything like this. High Arbiter Morin stood before the assembled representatives, his silver face troubled. The humans continue to advance, he said. We have lost 3 outposts. Our supply lines are being cut faster than we can repair them. And worst of all, 2 of our member species are beginning to waver. Murmurs filled the chamber. The Kirith and the Solani had been quietly withdrawing their ships from the front lines. They claimed technical problems and supply issues, but everyone knew the truth. They were afraid. We must offer new terms, Morin continued. Terms that the humans cannot refuse. The council debated for 3 days. In the end, they created what they believed was the perfect peace offer. They would give humanity full reparations for new soul, 10 times what they had offered before. They would recognize human sovereignty over all contested space. And most importantly, they would arrest and execute the admirals who had ordered the attack on New Sol. Surely, Morin said, the humans want justice. We will give them justice. We will give them the heads of those who wronged them. The message was sent through quantum relay to the human fleet. Ambassador Yoon Hana received it aboard the orbital station where she now served as war coordinator. She read it twice, then sent it to Admiral Park Jisoo. Park Jisoo was aboard the flagship Unyielding, overseeing the siege of a major Valari shipyard. She had not returned to Earth since the war began. She could not. There were too many memories there. Too many places where her daughter had laughed and played. She read the council's new offer in her private quarters. Captain Lee Tae-ho stood nearby, watching her face for any reaction. There was none. They offer us their admirals, Park Jisoo said quietly. They think we want revenge. Don't we? Tae-ho asked. Park Jisoo was silent for a long moment. Revenge is too small a word for what I want, Captain. I want something bigger. I want the galaxy to remember this war for the next 10,000 years. I want every species to teach their children about what happened when they touched humanity. She stood and walked to the communication console. Open a channel, she said. All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this. Tae-ho did as he was told. When the channel was open, Park Jisoo spoke. This is Admiral Park Jisoo of the United Earth Fleet. I have received the Council's second peace offer. They offer us money. They offer us territory. And they offer us the lives of their admirals who burned New Sol. She paused. We reject this offer. Across the galaxy, millions of beings listened in shock. You offer us the heads of your admirals, Park Jisoo continued. We will take them ourselves. And we will take much more than that. This war will end when we decide it ends. Not one moment before, the channel closed. On the council citadel, chaos erupted. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded more aggressive military action. Others begged for any solution that might end the war. The Kirith representative quietly left the chamber and ordered his remaining ships to return home. Commander Baek Minho heard the admiral's message on his small attack ship. He smiled for the first time in months. Then he ordered his squadron to strike deeper into council space than they had ever gone before. Over the next few weeks, Minho's forces destroyed 12 communication hubs. They struck supply depots, shipyards, and military bases. They appeared from nowhere and vanished like ghosts. The council had no idea how to stop them. Fear spread through the alien species like a disease. They had been told that humans were young and weak. They had been told that this war would be easy. Now they were beginning to understand how wrong they had been. On Mars, Dr. Shin Yuna finally looked up from her work. Her eyes were red from exhaustion, but she was smiling. Project Hammer is ready, she told her team. Contact Admiral Park. Tell her that the weapon is complete. The message reached Park Jisoo 3 hours later. She read it in silence, then looked out the window at the Valari shipyard, burning in the distance. How many ships are defending the shipyard? She asked. 47, Admiral, Tae-ho reported. They have reinforced their position. It doesn't matter, Park Jisoo said. Nothing they do matters anymore. She turned to face him. Dr. Shin has completed her project. The council thinks they can win this war with numbers. They think their 50-to-1 advantage will save them. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They are wrong. Soon they will understand just how wrong. Captain Lee Tae-ho felt a chill run down his spine. He had served with Park Jisoo for 15 years. He had never seen her like this. She had always been tough, always been strong. But now there was something different in her eyes. Something cold and patient and utterly without mercy. What is Project Hammer, Admiral? He asked. Park Jisoo looked at him. The end of the war, Captain. The end of everything the Council has built. The end of their peace and their power and their certainty that they rule this galaxy. She turned back to the window. They offered us peace twice. They thought they were being generous. They thought we would be grateful for their scraps. Her voice dropped to a whisper. They will offer us peace again, and each time, they will offer more, until they have nothing left to offer. She closed her eyes. And then we will take what remains. The moon had no name. It was just a small rock orbiting a gas giant near the Valari homeworld. Nobody lived there. Nobody cared about it. But on this day, every species in the galaxy was watching it. Admiral Park Jisoo stood on the bridge of the Unyielding, surrounded by her senior officers. Captain Lee Taeho was at her side. Commander Baek Minho had been called back from his guerrilla missions to witness this moment. Even Lieutenant Kang Jiho was there, his young face serious and pale. Project Hammer is ready to fire. Dr. Shin Yuna reported through the communication screen. She was still on Mars, but her voice was steady. Awaiting your order. Admiral. Park Jisoo looked at the small moon on the main display. It was ugly and gray and worthless. But it was close enough to the Valari homeworld that everyone would see what happened to it. Fire, she said. Somewhere in human space, a weapon activated. It was not a bomb or a missile. It was something new. Dr. Shin Yuna had called it a kinetic accelerator. It could launch massive projectiles at faster than light speeds, sending them across the galaxy in minutes instead of days. The projectile hit the moon 3 minutes later. One moment, the moon was there. The next moment, it was gone. A flash of light, brighter than a sun, filled every screen. When the light faded, only debris remained, spreading outward in a growing cloud. Silence filled the bridge. Even Park Jisoo, who had ordered the strike, seemed surprised by what she had seen. The Council will have received our message, she said finally. Now they know what we can do. Now they know that nowhere in the galaxy is safe from us. On the Citadel, panic had already begun. The Valari High Council watched the destruction of the moon in horror. That rock had been just 2 hours from their homeworld, at standard travel speeds. If the humans had aimed at a city instead of an empty moon, millions would be dead. They could hit us at any time, one counselor whispered. We have no defense against this. High Arbiter Morin tried to maintain calm, but his hands were shaking. We must negotiate. We must offer them everything they want. Everything. The third peace offer was assembled in a single day. It was the most generous offer the Council had ever made to anyone. They offered humanity total withdrawal from all contested space. They offered reparations so large they would bankrupt 3 member species. They offered permanent human seats on the Council itself, with full voting rights. They offered to dissolve the Valari military entirely. Take everything, Morin said in his message to humanity. Take it all. Just stop. Please, stop. The message reached Admiral Park Jisoo 1 hour later. She was in a meeting with Earth's unified government, held through secure quantum channels. The politicians had seen the destruction of the moon. Many of them were terrified of what they had created. We should accept, said President Han Do-kyun, an old man with tired eyes. They are giving us everything. More than everything. This is victory, Admiral. Total victory. Park Jisoo listened in silence. Around the virtual table, other politicians nodded in agreement. The war could end today. Humanity could claim more than they had ever dreamed possible. May I speak? Park Jisoo asked. The president nodded. Park Jisoo stood. I understand why you want to accept. I understand that this seems like victory. But I must ask you one question. She paused. Will this bring back New Seoul? The room was silent. Will their money bring back the 4 million people who died? Will their territory bring back my daughter? Will their seats on the council bring back the children who were burned alive in their homes? She shook her head. This offer is not justice. It is a bribe. They want us to take their gifts and forget what they did. They want the galaxy to see that human lives can be bought. President Han spoke carefully. Admiral, what would justice look like to you? Park Ji-soo looked at him with those cold, patient eyes. Justice would look like a galaxy that never forgets. Justice would look like 1,000 years of peace because every species is too afraid to harm a human ever again. Justice would look like the council on their knees, begging, with nothing left to offer. She sat down. We are not there yet. I recommend we reject this offer. The vote was close, but in the end, the government trusted their admiral. The offer was rejected. When the news reached the council, 3 more species immediately declared neutrality. The Kirith and the Solani had already withdrawn. Now the Dreth, the Mokan, and the Vasari announced that they would no longer fight for the Valari. The Great Alliance was falling apart. Councillor Dreven of the Kirith made secret contact with humanity through hidden channels. He was an old being, wise and careful. He had opposed the attack on New Sol from the beginning. Now he offered intelligence about council defenses in exchange for mercy when the war ended. I do not agree with what my colleagues did, he told Ambassador Yunhana. Many of us tried to stop them. But the Valari were too powerful, too proud. They would not listen. And now? Hana asked. Dreven's alien face showed something like sadness. Now they are learning. Now they understand that there are some wounds that cannot be healed with gold. General Oh Sunho had been preparing for the final phase of the war. He was a large man with a scarred face. A veteran of 100 battles. His ground forces were ready to invade any planet in Council space. Where do you want us to strike? He asked Admiral Park during their strategy meeting. Park Ji-soo pointed at the holographic map. Her finger touched the Council Citadel, the ancient heart of galactic civilization. Here, Sunho's eyes widened. The Citadel? Admiral, that station has stood for 10,000 years. It has never been attacked, never been taken. Then we will be the first, Park Ji-soo said. I want the galaxy to see human soldiers walking through the halls where they condemned us. I want them to see our flag hanging where their council once met. She looked at each of her officers in turn. Taeho, Minho, Sunho, Jiho. They had followed her through 2 years of war. They had trusted her when everyone else said they were mad to fight. This is the end, she said. Not just of the war. The end of the old galaxy. The end of the Council's power. When we take the Citadel, nothing will ever be the same again. Lieutenant Kang Jiho raised his hand. Admiral, what about civilians? The Citadel has millions of people living on it. Families, children. Park Ji-soo's expression did not change. We are not them, Lieutenant. We do not burn children. Every civilian will be given safe passage. Every surrender will be accepted. She paused. But we will take the Citadel. We will take it because we can. And when we stand in the council chamber, the whole galaxy will know that the age of human weakness is over. Forever. The orders went out. The fleet began to move. Across human space, soldiers and pilots prepared for the greatest battle in their species' history. And on the Citadel, the remaining council members watched the human fleet approaching and finally understood the truth. This was never about peace. This was about making sure the galaxy never forgot. The Council Citadel was the most beautiful thing Lieutenant Kang Jiho had ever seen. It hung in space like a jewel. A massive station built from white metal and crystal. Lights sparkled across its surface like stars. For 10,000 years, it had been the center of galactic civilization. Today, it would fall. Jiho sat in the cockpit of his fighter, waiting for the order to attack. Around him, 2,000 human ships had gathered. The largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Behind them, the support ships carried General Oh Sunho and 50,000 ground troops. Admiral Park Ji-soo's voice came through every speaker. All units, this is Admiral Park. The Citadel's defenders have been offered surrender terms. They have refused. They believe their ancient walls will protect them. A pause. They are wrong. Begin the assault. Jiho pushed his fighter forward. diving toward the Citadel's orbital defenses. Enemy ships rose to meet them, hundreds of Valari and allied fighters scrambling to defend their home. It should have been terrifying. Instead, Jiho felt only cold focus. He thought about New Seoul. He thought about the videos he had seen of children running through burning streets. He thought about his cousin, who had been 17 years old when she died. His hands moved on the controls, his weapons fired. Enemy ships exploded around him. The battle lasted 6 hours. The Citadel's defenders fought hard, but they were already beaten. Too many of their allies had abandoned them. Too many of their ships had been destroyed in earlier battles, and they were fighting an enemy that did not care about survival. Human pilots flew into certain death without hesitation. When their ships were damaged, they aimed for enemy vessels and kept firing until the end. The Valari had never seen anything like it. They did not understand how any species could fight with such complete disregard for their own lives. They did not understand grief. By the 4th hour, Jiho had destroyed 23 enemy ships. His fighter was damaged, leaking fuel and missing one wing. Any sensible pilot would have retreated. Jiho kept fighting. "Lieutenant!" his wingman shouted. "You need to pull back." "Not yet," Jiho said. "The orbital guns are still firing. I can see the main battery from here." He pointed his broken fighter at the Citadel's primary defense cannon. It was a massive weapon, capable of destroying capital ships with a single shot. It had to be silenced before the ground assault could begin. Jiho fired everything he had left. Missiles, energy beams, even his emergency flares. The cannon's shields flickered, cracked, failed. The cannon exploded just as Jiho's fighter lost power. He drifted in space, watching the fireball spread across the Citadel's surface. Moments later, a rescue ship picked him up. "You're insane," the rescue pilot told him. Jiho just smiled. "I know." With the orbital defenses broken, General Oh Sunho launched the ground assault. 50,000 soldiers in dropships, falling toward the Citadel like rain. The station's surface guns tried to stop them, but there were too many targets, moving too fast. Sergeant No Unji was in the 3rd wave. She was a small woman with short hair and hard eyes. She had joined the military 2 days after New Seoul burned. Her brother had been a teacher there, working at a school in the northern district. There was nothing left of that district now. Her dropship hit the Citadel's surface hard, throwing her against her restraints. The door blew open, and she was running before she could think. Around her, other soldiers poured out of their ships, spreading across the white metal surface. The Valari guards met them with energy weapons and desperate courage. They fought for every corridor, every room, every meter of their ancient home. But the humans pushed forward anyway. Step by bloody step, Yunji lost count of how many enemies she killed. She lost count of how many friends she watched fall. The battle became a blur of noise and light and death. She just kept moving forward, because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering. After 8 hours of fighting, she found herself standing in front of a massive door. The Great Hall. The place where the council had met for 10,000 years. The place where they had voted to burn New Seoul. "Sergeant," one of her soldiers shouted. "We're getting reports of a surrender signal from inside." Yunji didn't care. She planted explosives on the door and blew it open. The Great Hall was enormous, bigger than any building on Earth. 12 massive chairs stood in a circle, each one designed for a different species. Holographic displays covered the walls, showing the battle raging outside. And in the center of the room, High Arbiter Morin knelt on the floor with his hands raised. "We surrender," he said. "We offer complete and unconditional surrender. Please, no more death." Unji stood over him, her weapon aimed at his silver face. She thought about her brother. She thought about his students, the children he had loved teaching. All of them, gone. Ashes in the wind. Her finger tightened on the trigger. "Sergeant." The voice came from behind her. Admiral Park Jisoo walked into the Great Hall. Her uniform dusty but her back straight. "Lower your weapon." Unji didn't move. "He deserves to die." They all deserve to die. Unji, yes, Park Jisoo agreed. They do. But we are not executioners. We are soldiers. She put her hand on Yoonji's shoulder. Lower your weapon, that's an order. Slowly, Yoonji obeyed. Tears were running down her face, but she made no sound. Park Jisoo walked past her and stood before High Arbiter Morin. He looked up at her with those large black eyes, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. You have won, Morin said finally. Take whatever you want. The council has nothing left to offer. We surrender completely. Park Jisoo looked at him for a long time. Then she spoke, and her voice carried to every corner of the Great Hall, to every communication channel, to every species in the galaxy. You had 18 months to make this right. You sent us 4 offers, each one more generous than the last. Do you know why we refused them all? Morin shook his head. Because you still don't understand. Park Jisoo's voice was quiet, but it cut like a knife. This was never about territory, never about power, never about seats on your council. She leaned down until her face was close to his. This was about making sure you never forget what happens when you touch our children. She straightened up and turned to Sergeant Yoonji. Find a flag. A human flag. 20 minutes later, Yoonji stood on the steps of the Great Hall, surrounded by human soldiers. In her hands, she held the flag of Earth, the blue and green symbol of humanity. She climbed the steps to the highest point and planted the flag in the ancient stone. It caught the artificial wind and unfurled, spreading out for all to see. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched. They saw human soldiers standing in the heart of council power. They saw the flag of Earth flying where no alien force had ever conquered, and they understood that everything had changed. Admiral Park Jisoo stood at the window of the Great Hall, looking out at the stars. Captain Lee Tae-ho joined her. It's over, he said. We won. Park Jisoo shook her head. No. It's not over yet. Winning the war was only the first step. Now we have to win the peace. She turned to face him. We have to build something that will last. Something that will make sure this never happens again. Not to us. Not to anyone. And if it does happen again? Tae-ho asked. Park Jisoo's eyes were cold. Then we will be here. Waiting. Ready. I would be ball. I would be ball. I would be ball. Waiting. She looked back at the stars. And next time, we won't stop at the Citadel. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Council Citadel. The galaxy had been transformed. Admiral Park Jisoo sat in the same chair where High Arbiter Morin had once ruled. The Great Hall had been rebuilt, its walls now decorated with art from 100 worlds. The 12 chairs of the old council had been replaced with a single round table, where representatives from every species could sit as equals. But everyone knew who held the real power. Humans walked through the corridors of the Citadel now, not as visitors or servants, but as masters. They wore the uniforms of the new Galactic Assembly, an organization that had replaced the old council. Park Jisoo had refused the title of High Arbiter. Instead, she called herself the Supreme Arbiter. A small difference in words, a huge difference in meaning. Captain Lee Tae-ho had been promoted to Admiral. He now commanded the peacekeeping fleet, a force of human and allied ships that patrolled the galaxy. Any species that broke the new laws would face his judgment. So far, none had been foolish enough to try. Ambassador Yoon Hana had written the new Galactic Constitution. It was a document built on simple principles. No species could attack civilians. No species could target children. Any violation would be met with overwhelming force. The old council had made suggestions and compromises. The new assembly made laws and enforced them. Commander Baek Minho had returned to his quiet life. He ran the new Galactic Intelligence Service, a network of spies and informants that watched every corner of known space. Threats were identified and eliminated before they could grow. He never appeared in public. He preferred to work in shadows, just as he had during the war. Lieutenant Kang Ji-ho, now Captain Ji-ho, trained the next generation of pilots. He had become a legend, the hero of the Citadel assault. Young people from dozens of species came to learn from him. He taught them the same lesson he had learned during the war. That courage without purpose was just foolishness. But courage with purpose could change the galaxy. And Sergeant No Unji had gone home. She lived in a small house on Earth now, in a quiet town far from any city. She taught history at a local school, just like her brother had done before New Soul. Sometimes, late at night, she would look up at the stars and remember the things she had done, the people she had killed, the flag she had planted on the Citadel steps. She never talked about the war. When students asked, she would simply say, "That was a long time ago. What matters now is the future." The Valari Dominion no longer existed. Its leaders had faced trial for war crimes. Some had been executed. Others had been imprisoned for life. The species itself remained, but they had been stripped of all military power. Valari ships were limited in size and number. Valari worlds were monitored constantly. They would never be a threat again. The species that had defected early in the war had been rewarded. The Kirith and the Solani now held honored positions in the new assembly. Councillor Dreven of the Kirith had become Park Jisu's closest advisor. He had proven that some aliens understood honor and mercy, even when their leaders did not. But not everyone was satisfied with the new order. On a quiet morning, a young Valari diplomat requested an audience with the Supreme Arbiter. His name was Vorath, and he was the grandson of High Arbiter Morin. His grandfather had died in prison 6 months earlier, broken and forgotten. Vorath had inherited nothing but shame. Park Jisu agreed to meet him. She was curious what he would say. Vorath entered the great hall slowly, his silver skin pale with nervousness. He was young, barely an adult by Valari standards. He had been a child when the war began. He had grown up watching his people fall from masters of the galaxy to servants of humanity. "Supreme Arbiter," he said, bowing low. "Thank you for seeing me." Park Jisu nodded. "Speak." Vorath straightened. He had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. He had questions that had burned in his mind for years. Finally, he had the chance to ask them. "Why?" he said. "Why did you refuse every peace offer? You could have had everything you wanted years earlier. You could have ended the war with honor and profit. Why did you keep fighting?" Park Jisu was silent for a long moment. She looked at this young being, this child who had never chosen the war but was living with its consequences. She thought about her own daughter, who had been about the same age when she died. "Sit down," she said, gesturing to a chair. "I will tell you something that I have never told anyone else." Active. Vorath sat. His hands were trembling. Park Jisu stood and walked to the window. The stars spread out before her. Countless points of light, representing countless worlds and countless lives. "When your people burned New Soul," she said quietly, "I lost everything. My husband, my daughter, my faith in the galaxy. I spent the first week after the attack doing nothing but crying. I thought about giving up. I thought about dying." She paused. "But then I thought about my daughter. She was 7 years old. She loved to draw pictures of spaceships. She wanted to be a pilot when she grew up. She believed that the galaxy was beautiful and full of wonder." Park Jisu turned to face Vorath. She was wrong. The galaxy is cruel and dangerous. The strong take from the weak, and the weak have no choice but to suffer. That was the galaxy your council built. That was the galaxy that killed my daughter. Her voice hardened. So I decided to change it. Not through negotiation or compromise. Those had failed. The council had proven that they only respected power. So I gave them power. Human power. A power so great that they could never ignore us again. Vorath shook his head. "But the suffering. So many died. On both sides. Was it worth it?" "I don't know," Park Jisu admitted. "I ask myself that question every day. I think about all the lives that were lost. All the families that were destroyed. All the pain that I caused in the name of vengeance." She sat down across from him. "But then I think about the future. I think about the human children who will grow up in a galaxy where no one dares to harm them. I think about the 1,000 years of peace that will follow because every species is too afraid to start another war. Her eyes met his. You asked why I refused every peace offer. Here is the truth. Peace was never the point. The point was making sure that for the next 10,000 years, when any species in this galaxy thinks about hurting a human child, they remember what happened to you. They remember that we didn't stop when we could have. They remember that we didn't want your apologies, your money, or your territory. She leaned forward. We wanted you to be afraid. And now you are. Now everyone is. And humanity will never burn again. Voreth was silent for a long time. Then he spoke, his voice barely a whisper. Do you have any regrets? Park Jisoo looked out at the stars once more. Every day. Every single day. I regret that I could not save my daughter. I regret that I could not find another way. I regret every death that happened because of my choices. She closed her eyes. But I do not regret winning. I do not regret protecting my people. And I do not regret making sure that what happened to New Soul will never happen to anyone else. Voreth stood. He did not know what to say. He had come seeking answers. And he had found them. They were not the answers he wanted. But they were the truth. Thank you, he said finally, for your honesty. Park Jisoo nodded. Go home, young one. Build a life. Raise a family. Help your people find their place in the new galaxy. The war is over. It is time to look forward. Voreth left the Great Hall, his mind full of thoughts he could not yet understand. 3 months later, a memorial was unveiled on the rebuilt New Soul. 4 million names were carved into white stone, stretching across a plaza the size of a city. Families came from across human space to find the names of their loved ones and to remember. Park Jisoo stood before the memorial in her formal uniform. Cameras broadcast her image across the galaxy. Behind her stood the heroes of the war: Admiral Lee Tae-ho, Commander Baek Min-ho, Captain Kang Ji-ho, and many others. Even No Eunji had come, standing quietly at the back of the crowd. We gather here today, Park Jisoo said, to remember those we lost. Not to celebrate victory, not to claim glory, but to remember that every name on this wall was a person, a mother, a father, a child, a friend. Her voice wavered slightly. I knew one of those names better than any other. My daughter. She was kind and brave and full of dreams. She deserved to grow up and see the stars. She deserved to live. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she did not wipe them away. I fought this war for her. For all of them. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to build a galaxy worthy of their memory. She placed her hand on the cold stone where her daughter's name was carved. Rest now, little one. The sky will never burn again, I promise. The crowd was silent. The galaxy was watching. And for the first time since the war began, Admiral Park Jisoo allowed herself to cry. She had won everything. She had conquered the council, reshaped the galaxy, and ensured humanity's place among the stars. But standing before that wall of names, she knew the truth that no victory could hide. Some wounds never heal. Some prices can never be repaid. And some wars, even when they end, never truly stop hurting. The galaxy was at peace. Not because anyone wanted peace. Not because anyone deserved peace. But because humanity had refused to let anyone choose anything ever again. And in the end, that was all that mattered.